Welcome. This demonstration video is about how to interpret KEA evidence using construct progressions. Let's begin with a bit of review. What's new for KEA in Phase 2? Along the left-hand side of this table, you'll see domains of learning and development, and along the right-hand side, you'll see 2016-17 kindergarten entry constructs. Here you'll see the required constructs: engagement in self-selected activities, object counting, emotional literacy, fine motor, grip and manipulation, and then either crossing midline or hand dominance, whichever is chosen by your school district, or they may have chosen both, following directions, and letter naming. There are also additional constructs that you may opt into: book orientation and print awareness, and in addition, hand dominance or crossing midline, whichever your school district did not opt into, or perhaps they opted into both of them. You'll need a resource in order to engage in this demonstration video, the at-a-glance KEA construct progression document. You can find this on the regional wiki in KEA resources on that page. You'll want to download this document in order to have it in front of you so that you may engage in the activity. There are 5 critical components in the NC K-3 formative assessment process. This demonstration video engages in interpreting the evidence. In order to do that, evidence is interpreted by locating students' current learning statuses along the construct progressions. On each slide, a description of performance is provided for you to consider. These performance descriptors and more can be found in the North Carolina Construct Progressions and Situations book. Following each description, a section of the at-a-glance document will be provided along with where that student can be found along that construct progression, and that will be highlighted. So how do I document what I observe in my classroom? You can document your evidence using observational notes, photos, videos, student work samples, and even voice recordings using the app or your smartphone. All of these methods can be used to elicit evidence of student learning during your instruction. I chose this picture of my son when he was 6 years old. It tells me a lot about his learning and development as he engages in dramatic play, and also provided me with a writing sample. So let's begin. You'll need the KEA at-a-glance document and be looking at the self-selected activities construct progression. On each slide, I'll read aloud the performance descriptor and then give you a chance to locate the construct progression and choose where you'll see that student located. Louise goes to the painting easel, produces a painting, and leaves it to dry. Later, during a free choice time, Louise returns to the art center, takes the dried painting, and uses pieces from the collage box to further develop the design by gluing pieces onto the painting. So where do you think Louise is located along the construct progression in self-selected activities? If you observe this during your instruction. So we've located Louise on skill step D as his current learning status. You might want to take this time to engage with a partner or in your PLC to discuss why he might be here at this time and what his next step might be as his learning target. So this is his current learning status. We'll stay with self-selected activities. Angel begins to build in the block corner. She removes a collection of blocks from the storage shelf and piles them near the foundation of her building. Angel proceeds to build a tall building until all of the chosen blocks are used, ignoring the various distractions of other children also building nearby. So let's figure out where Angel is along the self-selected activities construct progression. Did you select C? Let's do another one in self-selected activities. In the Media Center, Abigail is given an opportunity to choose a book to be checked out. She walks from shelf to shelf and mimics the actions of peers by pulling the books off the shelf. Before Abigail takes an interest in any book, she notices other peers in a different location of the Media Center. Abigail drops a book on the table to migrate to that other area in the Media Center. Abigail repeats the action of pulling books from shelves without selecting any particular book. We've selected A for Abigail. You might want to take this opportunity to talk with your PLC or with your partner. This is her current learning status, and so then her learning target would be skill step B. Let's move on to object counting. Mr. Martinez wants to make sure that each team has 8 beanbags. He drops a handful of beanbags in the middle for each team. Mr. Martinez says, "Olivia, please count the number of beanbags for your team." Olivia moves one beanbag at a time and says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Without counting any of them twice or missing any, Mr. Martinez then asks Olivia, "How many beanbags do you have for your team?" Olivia says 8. So where would you place Olivia along the object counting progression? We've placed Olivia at skill step D as her current learning status. Let's do a couple more for object counting. Davis takes a scoop of animal crackers and places them on the napkin. He touches each animal cracker while saying one number word in order for each cracker. Not keeping track of where he started counting, Davis returns to already counted animal crackers and recounts 3 of the crackers. Who do you think Davis would be for his current learning status? Did you place Davis at skill step B for his current learning status? Let's do another one for object counting. The teacher holds up the compliment jar filled with cubes, 1 cube for every compliment the class receives. She reminds the class that yesterday they counted 8 cubes in the jar. She then holds up 1 more cube and asks, "If I take 1 more cube from the compliment jar we just received and put that cube in the jar, how many cubes would there be?" The children hold up their fingers indicating that the amount they think are in the jar. Maria, Juanita, and Chloe quickly hold up 9 fingers. The teacher asks Chloe, "How many cubes do you think are in the jar?" Chloe says, 9, see? Chloe holds up a cupped hand to indicate the cubes in the jar and says 8. She then mimics putting another cube in her cupped hand and says 9. Where do you think Chloe would be along the object counting progression for her current learning status? What would that skill demonstrate? We've placed that skill that Chloe is demonstrating at skill step G as her current learning status. Let's take a look at emotional literacy. Find that on your at a glance construct progression document. The teacher announces that it's time to go outside. In her excitement, Kelly knocks over the pencil box and screams, "Woohoo!" What skill is Kelly demonstrating along the emotional literacy construct progression? We've placed her at skill step A. Take a moment to talk with your peer group, your PLC, or a partner. Let's do another emotional literacy example. Jody is sitting by herself on the playground. Her teacher sits beside her and asks Jody how she is feeling. At first, Jody is not sure how to express how she feels. So her teacher reminds Jody of a book they read about a bear that was far from home. Jody says, "I'm lonely today, like the bear." What skill is Jody demonstrating along the construct progression as her current learning status? We've placed Jody at skill step D. Her teacher supported her as she labeled emotions in herself using the book from earlier that day. Let's do another emotional literacy example. After reading the book Peter's Chair, Sawyer explains that Peter is both happy and worried about having a baby sister because babies are fun to play with, but they also take all of Mama's time. Where might Sawyer be along that emotional literacy construct progression based on the skill he's demonstrating? We've placed that skill that Sawyer's demonstrating at skill step H. Let's do another emotional literacy example. Samantha arrives late to school and says to her teacher, "My dad is worried that he's going to be late for work." What skill is Samantha demonstrating along the emotional literacy construct progression? We've placed that skill at skill step F. It's a higher order emotion. Let's move now to grip and manipulation. Locate that construct progression on your at-a-glance document. When observed in a variety of settings, Logan grasps objects. like a fork, spoon, paintbrush, marker, crayon, pencil, counters, with her entire hand, fingers pointing down, or five-finger grip, like a palmar grasp, using a whole arm movement, shoulder and elbow, resulting in less precise hand control. What is Logan demonstrating along the grip and manipulation construct progression as a current learning status? We've placed Logan at skill step A, uses a fisted grip or palmar grasp with whole arm movement. Let's do another grip and manipulation example. Gabrielle uses her thumb and fingers to manipulate or move objects. Her wrist and fingers are moving together as a unit with less elbow movement. What is Gabrielle demonstrating along that construct progression? We've chosen skill step D for Gabrielle along that construct progression. Let's move now to crossing midline. Gabriel consistently crosses the midline during a variety of activities and tasks, using his dominant hand, right, for movement and manipulation around his body. Not just on the right-hand side. He does not manipulate his body, paper, or objects in order to avoid crossing the midline. What is Gabriel demonstrating? He is consistently crossing the midline at skill step C. Let's do another example for crossing midline. Alyssa picks up chips while counting each one. She picks up chips on her right-hand side with her right hand. She picks up the chips on her left-hand side with her left hand. What does this tell us about Alyssa and the skill she's demonstrating for crossing midline? That matches to skill step A. Let's do an example for hand dominance. Jayla holds a piece of paper still with one hand while writing or drawing with her dominant hand. What skill is Jayla demonstrating along the hand dominance progression? Skill step D, using assistance from the other hand by holding that piece of paper still. Let's do another one for hand dominance. Abigail mostly uses the same hand to complete a variety of activities. Color, paint, write, throw a ball, staple, brush hair and teeth, use adaptive technology, use a mouse, scoop items from a jar, using that same hand. What does that tell us about Abigail along the hand dominance progression? Skill step B, uses established dominant hand. Let's move on to letter naming. Find letter naming on your KEA at-a-glance document. When asked, use your pointer to find a letter in the classroom, Juan uses the pointing device and points to a letter and/or letters in the classroom environment. That's skill step C. Locates, talks about, and/or asks questions about the letters in the environment. Pointing device can be something like a fly swatter where we've cut out the center to help students locate letters, a magic wand that we've used to help students engage in this activity, any kind of pointing device that we decide to use. Let's do another one for letter naming. During small group reading, the teacher hands Sarah the framing tool, shows her an uppercase letter, and asks her to find the same letter in lowercase. Sarah accurately frames the lowercase letter. When prompted to find additional letters, Sarah matches some uppercase letters to lowercase letters. Let's find that skill along the letter naming construct progression. Skill step G. Some accurately matches some uppercase to lowercase letters. Let's do another example for letter naming. When reading the class name graph, Jeremiah uses a framing tool to frame letters while accurately naming most uppercase and lowercase letters aloud. This is a nice activity where you can have all of your students' names listed and students can name the letters using a framing tool. Here is Jeremiah's skill along that construct progression. Skill step J, accurately names forms of the same letters for most letters, upper and lowercase. Let's do a couple for following directions. As children are gathering for group time, the teacher walks over to Mason and says, "Would you please sit behind John?" while pointing behind John as a visual cue. Then Mason sits behind John. What is the skill that Mason is demonstrating? Where is that along the progression? Skill step D. He was given a visual cue, and there's a positional word behind. Let's do another one for following directions. When Hashiro enters the classroom, the teacher says, "Good morning. Remember to put your coat on the hook and put your reading book on the table." The pictures for the morning routine are posted on a bulletin board. The teacher could point to pictures on the bulletin board if a visual cue appears to be needed. Hashiro places his coat on the hook and places his reading book on the table. So where is Hashiro along this construct progression for following directions? So it's skill step G with visual cues if needed, follows two-step directions. Let's do another one for following directions. While posting a picture schedule for later reference, the teacher gives directions orally saying, "Finish your math stations, wash your hands, and eat your snack." Tomas accurately follows directions. So where would Tomas be along that following directions construct progression? Where would his demonstration of that skill be? with skill step I. So that completes our practice time together. We have practiced interpreting evidence of just one of the 5 critical components of the formative assessment process for kindergarten through 3rd grade. We have 5 modules that you can go to, and they're brief, and you can learn more about the 5 critical components. These modules can be found on our formative assessment process wiki. I'll take you there now just so you can get a glimpse of them. Each module is one of the 5 critical components, and they have teachers' classroom evidence there, and they lots of examples about how to go about this process. Teachers, their actual evidence and how they've been doing this in their classrooms from the time of the pilot, where teachers were using all of the constructs together. So this might be very helpful to you as you continue to implement the kindergarten entry assessment. As a next step for you. I hope you found this helpful.